The other day I was thinking about some of the jobs that I've had in the past. Some of those jobs I really wanted and some I just took because I needed the money. Back in the day, when I didn't have the internet, I didn't have any way to find out what it was like to work for a certain company, and nowadays you have websites like Glassdoor where people go on and leave reviews about where they've worked in the past. It's important to keep in mind that different people's experience of the same job can be completely different, and it can also depend on the actual shop or area that they work in. Just because I've had an experience working in a particular job doesn't mean that's definitely what it's going to be like for you, but I decided to share my experiences just in case you're thinking about applying for any of these jobs and you wonder what it could be like. So with that being said, in this video I'm going to be talking to you about working in a betting shop. So when I first started working in this betting shop, I trained and worked in one shop for about a year, and then I got moved down to a different shop. But during that time I also got moved between different areas if somebody had phoned in sick or it was just going to be really busy. But every single time I got moved to a different shop, the experience in each shop was basically the same, so I'm assuming that this is what it's going to be like to work in all betting shops. One of the first things that you should expect while working in a betting shop is that most of the customers will think you're an absolute idiot and they just try and pull the wool over your eyes to get a payment out of you. So say for example they're betting on a horse, and instead of writing the horse's name they write the number. So they'll write down this dodgy looking number and then say they're actually betting on number 1, but they write it in a way where they could try and claim it to be like a 4, a 7 or a 1, or if it's horse number 2, they'll write it in a way where they can come back and say, oh no, that was a 4, or no, that was a 2 but I just accidentally put a line. And they do it all the time. Like I used to get this at least 10 times a day. Even on a quiet day you would get customers that would just write these random symbols on a bit of paper and then hope that they could just come up and like just make up what number they had put on to get money. Another thing that they would do that was quite similar to this is if there was a horse race and a dog race at the same place, they would write the name of the place and then the number, but they wouldn't specify if it was a dog or a horse, and then they would wait to see if any of them won and they would come up and try and collect the money. When you work in a bookies, you're technically not allowed to tell people how to spend their money, so if somebody comes in with a purse or a wallet full of money and they're emptying it out every bet and you know that they can't afford it, you're not allowed to say to them, oh, do you think that you should be spending that much, or maybe you should keep that. But sometimes you had to say something, because so many times people would come in and they would put like £100 or more on each bet, and then they would lose all their money, and like 3 hours later they'd be standing at the end of the desk crying because they've spent all their rent money or spent their kids' Christmas money. And it's like, what do you want me to do now? I can't give you that money back and cancel all the bets on the system. You've chose to give me that money, you've chose to bet it and you've lost it. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you did feel bad for them, because sometimes people really think, oh, this is the last of my money, maybe if I go in here and I bet some of it, I'll win it and then I can go and buy more Christmas presents. But you don't stand and spend it all. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, it just happened nearly every single day. The amount of people that came in and spent all their money and then stood there and cried about it as if you can give them it back, and you can't. In every single betting shop that I've worked in, the staff have had nicknames for the regular customers. In one particular shop, a man used to come in every single day and he used to scream at the screen every time the dog that he had bet wasn't winning, and he used to always scream, oh, they've fed it pies, oh, it's been eating the pies. And that's because back in the day, apparently, they used to feed dogs a lot of pies so that they wouldn't run as fast, so that they wouldn't win the race. Now, I don't think they do that now, but this man was obsessed. It was constantly shouting at the screen, oh, they've gave it pies, oh, it's been eating all the pies. And it was just, like, hilarious. Like, at first, it was annoying, but as it went on, it just was ridiculous. He just literally used to sit in there every single day and just scream at this screen about how the dogs had been getting fed all the pies. As I said before, you're not supposed to tell people how to spend their money, and the same goes with their children. You can't really tell a person how they're supposed to bring their children up. So obviously you're not allowed to let anybody in the shop who's under 18. So people used to come into the shop and bet for hours and tell their children to stand outside. Now, there was times that I seen it raining and the actual shelter outside the shop is also shop property, so children aren't allowed to stand in there. And people used to come in and get their kids to stand out in the street. Now, any of the bookies that I worked in, the street outside had a main road and their children would be standing outside in the rain for hours. And you would actually say to them, oh, you know, they're not allowed to stand in the shelter, thinking that they would say, alright, okay, I'll just go then. but then they would go out into the shelter and be like, get out onto the street, and make them stand out in the street in the rain. And even though I wasn't technically allowed to say anything, there was many times that I used to say to people, look, you can't leave your rain standing outside in the rain so that you can stand in here and bet. Like, they're not even allowed to be standing out there. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I know it's not my job to tell people that, and I know that I wasn't allowed to do it, but you can't allow somebody to have their rain standing outside in the rain. And I know for a fact that all they would have done is went round the corner to William Hill and played their machines and got them to stand outside there in the rain. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to watch. I mean, I don't even technically like children, but to see somebody standing gambling all the rent money away while their mains are standing outside in the rain is just a pure shame. Before I started working in the bookies, I used to bet quite a lot on dogs and horses, and I don't really bet on anything like that now. But I got the job because I really wanted to work in a bookies. I didn't get it because I had any interest in football whatsoever. In the area that I live, there's a problem with people fighting over football, and this is mainly between Celtic and Rangers fans. Now, I would say that the area that I live is mainly Celtic fans, and the town next to where I live is mostly Rangers fans. Now, that's not 100% fact, that's just my opinion on the matter. So the shop that I worked in was actually in between these two areas, and the bus that used to take you to the Celtic game used to stop outside the shop that I worked in. On days that there was Old Firm games in particular, it was an absolute nightmare, because the Celtic bus would be sitting outside to take them to the game, and all the Celtic and Rangers fans would be inputting their bets on, and they'd all be arguing, and they'd be like, oh, what team do you support, hen? And I'd be like, I'm not interested in football. And they'd be like, oh, she just doesn't want to start an argument. And I'm like, no, I just don't care. Like, do I look like I care about football to you? Just because I work in a bookies doesn't mean to say I care about football. It used to drive me insane. Like, even now when there's an Old Firm game, it's not anywhere near as bad as what it used to be. But it's like, please get a grip. Do you know what I mean? Like, stop fighting over something that's just so ridiculous. Something that would really drive me insane is when a customer wrote out a betting slip for first goal scorer, and they would write the person's name, and I would say to them, oh, what team do they play for? And they'd be like, the best team. And I'd be like, right, what team is that? Oh, the best team. And it's like, do you know what? I don't have time to sit here and guess what the best team is. Just tell me what team it is. Write it on the slip so that I know, because I have to capture these bets on the computer, and it's less time if I actually know what team they play for, and I don't want to ask other people that I work with. Do you know what I mean? Like, just write on it what team they play for. How hard is that? During the time that I worked there was a World Cup, and people used to come in and write down the names of the first goal scorer, and I'd say, oh, what country do they play for? And they'd be like, oh, well, read his name. What country do you think he plays for? What country does it sound as if he plays for? And it's like, I've seen players playing for countries who aren't actually for that country. Do you know what I mean? How am I supposed to read a name and know what team they play for? It doesn't make any sense. Like, just because I work in a bookies doesn't mean to say I know the nationality of every single football player. And to be honest, I didn't know the nationality of any of them because I didn't give a crap. Something that was quite common in one particular shop that I worked in is that people were always accusing you of stealing their money. So they would put on these ridiculous 2p accumulators, and they would have like 2p, and then they would have all these different orders, and then maybe the bet would come to like £1.50 or £2.50. And then at the end of the day or the next day, they would come in with all these different slips and get you to check them all. So you would scan them all, and then it would come up how much they'd to be paid out, and it would add it up for you, and then I would just pay out the amount of money. So then they would come in later on in the day, and this wasn't just for me, this is with other people that worked in the shop, and they'd come in and they'd be like, oh, I handed over 25 betting slips earlier, and I should have got £27.50, but I only got £25.40. And then the manager or whoever was in charge at the time had to go through all the slips, look through all their slips, and see how much they were due to be won. So then once they scanned them all again and checked them, and they're like, oh no, that was right, they'd be like, alright, thanks. And it was like, you knew fine well that I paid you out the right amount, you were just wanting extra money, like you just wanted your extra £2 or whatever, and it was absolutely pathetic. Like, people would just accuse you of stealing their money. The final two things that I'm going to talk to you about are things that you really might not have to deal with depending on the area that you work in. So as many of you will know, I live in Coatbridge, and at the time I worked in Coatbridge. So anybody who lives in Coatbridge won't be surprised by any of this at all. So you'll probably know that you're not allowed alcohol in a bookies. So people would come in and they would have on big winter jackets or whatever, and they would be sitting writing out their betting slips, and then the next thing you would see them with their sleeve like this in their jacket, and they'd be like taking drinks out their sleeve, and it was like, why would you have a drink up your sleeve, literally drinking like this? And you'd say to them, excuse me, you're not allowed to drink in here. Oh no, I'm just keeping my can warm. Like, why would you want to keep your can warm? Why would you want to keep any drink warm? Do you know what I mean? Or you'd see them sitting with their jacket and you'd see them doing this, and it's like, I know that you've got a bottle of Buckfast in your jacket. Do you know what I mean? I'm not blind, I'm not stupid, you need to leave. I kept on doing this with his jacket, and we were like, you're not allowed to drink in here, you'll need to leave. And he was like, no, I'm not drinking here, I'm just scratching my nose or whatever. So then he stood up to leave, and he actually dropped a bottle of Buckfast out his jacket, and it was all over the floor. And it's like, you know, I'm not an idiot. I know when somebody's drinking, if you're drinking juice or whatever, you're going to sit and drink it like that. You're not going to sit and drink it out your jacket like this. The final thing is something that I'm assuming you wouldn't have to deal with because you're not allowed to smoke indoors anymore. But this was just so bad that I had to mention it. Like, it just shows you how ignorant people are. Like, you used to get the people coming up with like their pipe or their roll up or their fag, or like cigarette. A fag's a cigarette, by the way, in case you didn't know that in Scotland. And they used to come up with their like cigarette hanging out their mouth and stand and put their bet on and be like, oh, 4:05, number 7, and they'd be puffing their smoke all over you, just speaking to you and puffing it all over you, and it was just so ignorant. Now, that used to happen when I worked in pubs and clubs as well, when you were allowed to smoke inside, and they'd be getting their money out their wallet and they'd just be puffing their smoke all over you. And it's like, I need oxygen to actually breathe, do you know what I mean? You're trying to kill me while you're putting your bet on. How am I supposed to breathe? Well, all I can breathe in is your used smoke. It was so ignorant. Something that was very common in the main shop that I worked in is that a lot of junkies used to come in all the time. Now, I know that people moan and say, oh no, it's addicts or whatever. There's no nice way to say it, right? They were junkies, and they used to come in and they used to pick the fag outs out the ashtrays. And one time in particular, this guy came in and he'd picked all the fag outs out the ashtrays, and he was just so away with it that he couldn't find his way back out the shop. Now, bearing in mind that this betting shop had a desk, 2 walls, and then like a glass front and a door, so the door was in the middle. It wasn't giant, it wasn't as if there was like a way that you could get lost, but he basically just stood at the door and he would turn and slam into the door, turn and slam into the door, turn and slam into the door, and it was like, I'm not helping him, I'm not getting out my seat to go through a door that's keeping me safe for him, to go and open my door for him. Do you know what I mean? It was just bad. Like, you used to get things like that all the time. You used to get quite a lot of junkies coming in and standing at the end of the desk just telling you about like their life as a junkie. There was one guy who used to stand and cry, and he'd be like, oh, I want to go back to Berlin, I miss Berlin. Berlin is a jail, by the way. And he'd be like, oh, all my pals are in Berlin, I want to go back to Berlin. And it's like, well, go back to Berlin, do you know what I mean? What do you want me to do? I'm not here to help you go back to Berlin. Now, don't get me wrong, like, the guy would stand and talk away to you, and a lot of the time he seemed like a nice guy. But I mean, most of the time he would just stand and greet about wanting to go back into Berlin. If you've ever worked in a betting shop, let me know in the comments if you've had any of these experiences. Now, obviously, if you work in a really nice area where there's no junkies and no alcoholics, and you don't have problems with football or anything like that, you're not going to have a lot of these experiences. But let me know in the comment section if you've experienced anything like this in the past. I'm going to be doing a few more videos about different jobs that I've had and some of the experiences that I've had. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Bye!